Welcome, everybody. This is the Digital Marketing Fluid podcast. We talk about tips, tricks, and strategies people and local businesses use for their digital marketing. And I'm your host, Paul Matthew. I help people communicate their vision, their story, and their message through consistent video production. Today, I am speaking with Justin and Chris, and they are the part of the team behind GrandRapids.tech. So why don't you guys tell me a little bit about your business, tell the audience about your business and what you do, why you like it, and where you're going.
Yeah, so we've been around for 10 years now, a little over 10 years, and we kind of do a little bit of everything technology for our customers, and really we like to help build value and help make customers' technology more efficient for them.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people kind of struggle with dealing with it, and really it should be something that's helping you, not hurting you. So yeah.
There's a lot of people that want to be hands-off with technology.
Yeah, exactly.
And you either love it or you hate it.
We try to bring everything together to make it really as beneficial for the customers as possible.
Do you help with like a kind of a transition or training period? Like, do you kind of teach them how to do it so they can eventually do it themselves, or is it you just handle it and then keep us on retainer?
Depends on the customer, and it depends on what they want to do, and it depends on the products too.
Mm-hmm.
So like with the e-commerce website, we're more than happy to train a customer on how they can input items, and like if we build something with a CMS on the back end, like we've been doing these React websites that are custom built on React, but we still build in like a WordPress CMS,
Mm-hmm.
so they can go in and input their own changes if they want to. That's just something that we can show them how to do it if they want. Otherwise we just take care of it for them if they have zero interest or lack the time or what have you.
Do most people take you up on that, or most people hiring you because they just want to here, we don't want to touch technology, here it is?
I would say
it depends on the size of the company who
Yeah.
they have working for them. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
somebody might have someone in-house that can take care of that kind of stuff, and which is really awesome because
Mm-hmm.
we can focus on the labor that has a lot more value, like development and design and marketing. And we kind of do training with those people that work at the company so we can kind of maximize their value too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so you do the design work and digital marketing aspect for that.
Design, development, marketing.
What outside of web design, what other avenues of marketing and digital marketing do you use for your clients?
Social media marketing.
Email marketing, online advertising management, like
Okay.
Google advertising and things like that, to do it properly, you should know what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people don't. So that's kind of one of those things that it's pretty easy to work with customers on and be like, all right, exactly what do you need? And then we can make those implementations.
Do you just do the SEO aspect and the strategy, and then they have to produce their own content, or do you have some sort of partnership or content offering where you help them develop the content that for inbound marketing and stuff like that?
I'd say it depends on the client too. Like I said, they might have someone in-house that can do that, or they might know somebody who does their content.
Mm-hmm.
Overall, it's first strategy, where we need to pinpoint, users. I mean, some companies might do best on social media marketing, something like consumer goods. Whereas if we have a client that works with insurance agents or something more niche, they're going to want to get on LinkedIn, and they're wanting to connect with professionals. So that might be another strategy. And then the content kind of builds after that.
Do you have a process for qualifying and identifying their needs, like a list of questions you ask,
Yeah.
and then you can recommend, you probably need this or you need this?
Yep. So we just basically have, questionnaire that goes through all kinds of different stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It even goes into branding and stuff. And it's more meant for, it's pretty general
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get questions that maybe sometimes they haven't thought about something too,
Yeah.
So it's just some general questions that kind of bring about other thoughts that they might have, and other ways that we can help them.
What are some sample questions that you would put on there?
Well, basically, I guess one would be, how do you feel about your current branding, right?
Right.
As general as that goes, like, should we work on a new idea for the way that your branding looks, the way that it represents your company, that sort of stuff. And maybe they're like, oh, it's not something that we'd really thought about, but, our logo doesn't really portray what we do at all, and, different things like that.
How do you find clients? Do you do that through mostly digital marketing, networking? What's kind of your process, and where do you get those leads?
Kind of depends.
A mix of both, really. I mean, you do a lot of networking in various groups. I'd say our digital marketing, a lot of that, we do Google Ads, SEO. We do what most companies do, it's just
We do
we've
the same
optimized
stuff
it.
for us that we do for our clients,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure.
So we definitely get some from that, but then networking. Also, sometimes we'll just go through and one of our guys, Brandon, he's been going through and just getting a bunch of email addresses from and, building email campaigns and questionnaires and stuff like that as well.
Okay.
And that's been working pretty decently too.
Where are you getting the emails from?
All over the place.
Okay.
He'll look through, different businesses that, it's pretty easy to find out when a customer needs a potential customer could use a new website, because you just go to their website.
Yeah, oftentimes
And if it's
users are
terrible,
like, oof,
Yeah.
yeah, you guys could use this.
yeah, and they know it too.
Yeah.
So it's pretty easy to just be like, but so once you have an idea of like what customer you're looking for, then there's all kinds of different ways to, whether it's LinkedIn or going to different profiles or shooting them a message there, or all kinds of different stuff.
Have you guys built a customer persona or profile that you target?
Not particularly. I would say just small and medium-sized businesses. We don't really go after the enterprise stuff or large projects so much.
We do so many services too that it's, whether we're installing cameras or networks at a client office or helping them do a build like that, to websites, digital marketing. We just have, I guess, so many different customer profiles.
Have you ever felt limited by the fact that when you're offering so many options, that do you find people get a little confused, or like, oh, we're looking for a specific thing, and you might be so generalist that we want somebody more niched into what we want? Do you ever run across that as an issue?
Surprisingly not. Really, it's kind of weird with technology that everything is, so similar. And
True.
whereas we offer phone and internet service, we don't actually provide those services either. We just partner with all these different companies, and then we can sit down and say, hey, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
And then we basically reach out to our internal people at all these different companies that we partner with, and we say, hey, this is what they want, and then we kind of do the vetting process. So basically, we're like a, maybe like a chief marketing officer and a chief information officer for our clients, and then we kind of like take it from there. Whether we do it in-house like we do with our digital marketing stuff and our web development, or IT stuff, it's pretty straightforward. We all have backgrounds in that.
I would say too, it's helped us more than anything, because you kind of mentioned before, there's a segment of users or company owners or managers that don't want to touch technology at all. So, that follows that they don't want to work with multiple technology companies either.
Right.
They want to work with someone they trust that just does everything tech. And that's kind of our tagline and our brand is just everything tech.
Yeah, you guys basically are all encompassing. So if they come in with one idea, and then like, well, we have all these other things. Do you have like that sprouting seed where they come in for one thing, and then you end up spreading your roots into their entire company?
Yeah, exactly. And that happens really often. One company that we were just talking about prior to this meeting, we were over there with them, and they started off as a managed services customer,
Mm-hmm.
And now we're talking about building like a whole marketing strategy with them.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty interesting to see how things change around. And yeah, we're just trying to help customers out and manage their technology for them so they don't have to. So
Yeah.
that's kind of where that like small, medium size, like we're happy to do other stuff too, like work with a director of IT or work with a company's IT department to make things happen too. But I'd say our niche is really just, administering that stuff, and whether it's picking the right software for what they're using and then putting it on a server, or picking a cloud-based software, or whatever it might be, just making sure that things work together and really benefit the customer at the end of the day is really what our goal is.
Yeah, if you just have genuine intentions to help, and
Right.
you go far just with that.
Yeah.
Do you ever find it's challenging to create your messaging or branding when you have so many different things to offer, or is it just like, oh, it's just all things tech and you just lock into that?
Lock into that. I mean, as far as like little things, like we just launched a new website, and so there was discussions of like, okay, is this too much, or is like, how do we pare this down into some bigger categories? But really, as far as user experience goes, you start identifying those things, and you just start, grouping things together in a way that's easy for your users to read and digest and stuff like that. But like I said, it's really just helped us with our a lot of facets of our marketing. I mean, one thing we're really good at is using our lists of emails of people we've talked to or people we've done business with. I mean, that's a huge thing. A lot of companies don't even, keep a big list of emails and contacts or a CRM where they can just reach out to those people and say, hey, I know we did this for you, but we also, do this service.
How do you kind of categorize or tag your email list so you can follow up with the best recommendations?
Well, usually it's just kind of blanketed, right? So if we're in the middle of working with a customer on something, then it's pretty easy to say like, hey, like once we've completed a website, like, all right, well, let's start talking about, the rest of the marketing pieces, right? Like, how are you guys doing with your social media? How are we doing with, Google advertising and things like that? Different pieces like that. But generally speaking, it's pretty easy to just shoot out, an email to everybody and be like, hey, here's a survey. First of all, these are all the things that we do. Not sure if you knew that or not, but how can we help you?
Okay.
So really it's just asking the customer and staying in front of the customer and continuing to say, hey, what do you guys need? And then kind of responding to that, I think, is big.
So you also kind of like reply to people individually and start conversations and have a very like organic relationship with them?
Yeah, definitely.
It's easy to do that too with, us being a pretty small company, but there just seem to be certain clients that each of us work with the most, and, we garner a lot of trust, from our clients because we're handling very important stuff for them, too.
So when you're providing that kind of value and that level of service, you pretty much have a good relationship with every customer. There's nothing that really is transactional.
Yeah, not normally. It's pretty fluid.
That's a...
I was gonna. But yeah, no, it's nice. We just get a nice conversational back and forth, and things kind of just tend to continue to move forward in whatever direction they need to, based on the needs of the client.
Where would you say your biggest client base is? Like, what kind of industry is kind of the most common one that you service?
Industry is probably, it would be hard to say, but I would say we deal with a lot of offices.
Okay.
Right? So whether it's, a law office or a, just like a wealth management office, or, something along those lines. Just different types of like the office environment, the 9 to 5. We deal with a lot of different companies that are kind of like that.
Yeah.
That's just kind of, I don't know why exactly, but that's just kind of
They have the most
who reaches out
computers
to
and
us.
tech, right?
Yeah.
Generally speaking, maybe,
Yeah.
maybe that's kind of how that started off. But
And I think the reason we don't have any industries that we cater to specifically is just the product we offer, which is technology. It just exists in every industry, and it's all encompassing, and everybody needs it. I mean, whether they know it or not, they could be a lot more efficient with technology sometimes, or they could save a lot more money with technology sometimes.
Is it generally they've kind of sold themselves, or do you have to do some convincing of, technology could improve all these things for you, and then they're like,
I think that our job really is to inform our customers. Maybe ask some questions that they haven't thought of before and have them kind of come to conclusions almost on their own. That, like, hey, have you thought about, for your specific business, I think that, if we could get an Instagram person like in your industry to rep some of your products, I think that would help you guys a lot. And they're like, we really didn't think of that before.
Education is a huge part of
Yeah, definitely. And a lot of our customers, we basically just work with them to figure out, to help them figure out what they need, I guess.
And do you do outbound or inbound content marketing to support that, since kind of a lot of what you do is educating? Do you provide those resources for people to find you and then find out what you do?
That's something that we're working on for ourselves. It's kind of one of those things that there's only so much time in a day.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And clients always come first, So,
Yeah.
We haven't really, I know that it could benefit us, but it's not something that we've had the time to do yet. So we'll see.
Yeah, it just comes down to prioritizing
exactly.
the tasks and stuff, or hiring somebody that's designated for that.
And that's kind of part of Brandon's position right now, is that he's working on that, but he's new. He's very familiar with sales and marketing, just not necessarily doing so for a tech company. So he's just kind of working through stuff and figuring it out, and it's part of the process,
Yeah.
So he just started a few weeks ago.
Yeah, and we're already
been doing
getting
great.
Yeah, we're already getting a lot of response. Very creative with email marketing, things like that, and that's been huge for us. I think because a lot of people, when it comes to technology, if they're not a very technical person, we first have to bridge the gap between value and price on like whether someone's going to spend money on a solution. But it's also, they don't even know what things cost sometimes. Like maybe they got a quote like 4 years ago before this big cloud software made everything very inexpensive, or maybe they've just heard, or they have an assumption, this is going to be very expensive to do, I'm going to put it on the back burner. So when we actually contact people and just let them know someone's in the area, we get to talking about what something like that would take, and they're surprised a lot of the time that it's a lot cheaper than they thought it would be.
How much business would you say comes from when you're upselling on your email list? Like you have your email list and are probably customers you've worked with. How much of that business comes because of your email campaigns?
Probably not as much as we'd like to, because I have conversations with customers where they're like, I had no idea you did that, and it would be nice if they were reading all the emails and getting all of our marketing material and they just knew it, but people are busy.
Yeah.
So sometimes it takes conversations too.
Well, maybe
it's really coming from every angle,
Yeah.
So it's kind of hard to say where a lead came from specifically, because it's like awareness, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's brand awareness or product or solution awareness or what have you. And that has to come from a lot of different places a lot of times. Sometimes you get lucky and they see an email and then that's the conversion, but really it has to do with them, seeing an email, seeing something on social media, then maybe they took a look at our website too and just a whole bunch of different angles. Maybe it's something that we've had a conversation with them about in person, and then they get an email later or whatever, you know.
Sometimes people need to see something 3 times, you know, or hear it 3 times before
Things like 7
sinks
touch
in.
points.
Yeah, generally speaking.
Yeah.
And those can come from a variety of sources, and it's better if it comes from multiple places, and then you never know which one's going to make it finally click.
Right, exactly. So it's hard to say, you know, with certainty or any sort of certainty really, as far as like how that is with email specifically. But
have you tried surveying them and asking, hey, where did you hear us about, or what convinced you to come across and do this project?
we've been doing a lot of surveys lately. Just basically since Brandon started. It's just kind of one of those things that none of us, you know, prior to him being on the team, none of us had any time to really do that sort of stuff. So it kind of got put on the back burner for us, you know.
We're a lot better at doing things for customers and then kind of like forgetting to do it for our business.
Right.
That's the easy trap to get into as a small organization. Like I'm a one-man band right now, and so I will do the extra mile for a customer. But when it comes to like, I know I should do that, but that's hard to do for myself. Just finding the time and prioritizing that.
Yeah, and that's another thing. You know, for me, it's kind of. It's just hard to. I kind of made a promise that I would try my best to avoid working on weekends, right? And I've done decent at that, so I just work a lot during the week. So, but had I, you know, if I wanted to work every Saturday and Sunday, I'm sure that I would have had time to do some email marketing and stuff. But
it's also
be careful.
There's the concept of whatever time you set aside to do something, that's how long it's going to take you to do that. So if you say, I'm going to work 7 days a week, you're probably going to get the same amount done as if you said, I'm going to work 5 days a week.
Yeah.
Because now that there's a cap, so you're going to hit that. And so if you can start to shorten that more and more, you'll just have more productivity in a shorter amount of time. So. Yeah.
I think my problem is I have my best ideas like at 1 a.m. or on weekends or something.
Yeah.
It's probably not healthy, but I might hop on something and get it done.
I woke up at like 3 this morning, and while I was laying in bed, I couldn't fall back asleep. So naturally, I just think about business. And, you know, I was just thinking about all kinds of different stuff, like how we could, you know, I know that we just rolled out our website, but how can we restructure some things, like from a design standpoint to make them like stand out a little bit better. And, you know, all those things are just going through my head, and then finally fell asleep, you know, like an hour before I was supposed to get up anyway, so that's cool.
Yeah, I love researching. I'm very fascinated with self-development and all those type of things. So something I've been that I read about is that we make when we're bored, that's when we're at our most creative. So that's why we come up with these great ideas right before bed and all
Makes
that.
sense.
But during productive time, we're always distracted. There's always something to grab our attention, so we're never bored, and we never have that creative process until we're finally shut down. So something I've implemented for myself personally is every morning, if I can afford it, I take the first hour, no devices. I wake up, my phone's on Do Not Disturb, and I don't check it for the first hour. I just pour some coffee, have a little breakfast, and I just sit there for an hour and not entertain myself with anything but my own thoughts. I keep a journal next to me, so if I do think of something, I can start to create those ideas and prioritize and think about my week and my day.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I think it's important to like what you do, too, because otherwise you're getting bored and like thinking about fantasy football or something, you know, something you like more than work. But if you like what you do, you know, that boring time is going to go into something productive.
Someone had come up with like a Photoshop brush, and it was their most popular, profitable Photoshop brush that he had ever designed. And it came from when he was just eating lunch and he was looking at the texture of his salad and thought, I wonder what that would look like as a Photoshop brush.
That's funny.
So it's just kind of interesting where those little nuggets can come from. And usually it's from those times when you're bored and thinking about just the randomest things.
Yeah.
Right.
Like a salad brush.
Salad brush.
I was also looking up another one about fixing hair, and like if you've got a busy background and you're trying to cut that person out, like just fake the hair. You can create a Photoshop hair brush and just add in fake texture, and then it looks much more high resolution.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I was like, oh, that's genius. Instead of just chopping out the hair, you just add fake hair, make it match the color, and now it looks like a very much a cleaner mask.
Yeah, problem solved.
Do you do any like design work like that, or are you more coding type work?
Yeah, I mean, like, we definitely do some design stuff as well. It's kind of part of the gig.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we are looking to hire somebody at some point in the near future. I'd say probably in the next few months if things keep going how they are, maybe sooner than that. But, you know, for right now, I do a lot of the design work. Not my strongest suit, but it's we definitely get by, you know. Really, it just comes down to figuring out whatever the customer wants, which can sometimes be easy and sometimes be not at all.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, as far as branding and logo design and stuff goes,
I think if we ask the right questions to a client, we always, you know, get really good results, you know? Because even if a client doesn't know what they want, they know what's kind of working. They get a feeling of that because they're living their business every single day. And likewise, they also know what's not working. And so we can just kind of hone in on those things. And, you know, even if we're not the best designers in the world or something, it always ends up good because we care and because we have that information from them.
Another thing that we'll do too is say, you know, whether it's a logo or website or whatever, we'll say like, hey, what do you like? You know, look at some of your competition throughout the world. You know, what do you like about their designs? What do you dislike about their designs? Go to their website. You know, scroll around. Say, do you like the way that this functions? Like, what, you know, as you using it and as you think that your customers are going to use it, what do you like? What do you dislike? And that really helps us get a really good idea of, you know, what they want. And then once we have a really good idea, then we can implement that and then give them a few options and be like, all right, what do you think?
Do you tailor for what their preference is or what their audience preference is?
So
it's a balancing act, and
it really is.
And the third part of that is being a professional who does a lot of online marketing or development or design. You're also thinking of what's technically available, what's available without going way over budget, but also people will hand you things where like you're like, that's not good.
We really shouldn't do that.
And so you have to bridge those three things: what they want, what their clients want, and then what you know as a professional. But I think adding to what you said, I think if you're doing design work or marketing work, if you're out there and you're finding clients, one of the best questions you can ask is, what's your competition doing? You know, what seems to be working for them? What seems to not be working for them? And they'll start showing you, you know, sites of their competitors if you're doing websites or videos or pictures of their competitors. And you can also start picking out things that you know as a professional aren't working for their competitors. And you have that edge too to build theirs a little bit better in those places where the competitors are missing out.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And so you have that competitive advantage for your, you know, agency, but also for your clients too. And a lot of people don't do that, and it's leaving value, you know, that can be used.
Not looking at your competitors it's a big mistake.
You got to know where they're doing good and where they're going wrong.
You don't want to repeat their same mistakes.
You know what they say, you know, like keep your friends close, your enemies closer.
Yeah.
It's I mean that's business, you know. You just gotta look at what everybody's doing and say like, hey, how can we do this better for ourselves and how can we do this better for our clients?
I like to think that it's not necessarily about doing it better, it's about doing it different.
Sure.
Yeah. Because especially when it comes to design, better can be relative. What one person considers better, another person won't.
Well, yeah, and we were talking about this earlier. We're actually looking at one of our competitors, and we're like, I really like what they're doing here, but I like the design principles, but the user experience side of it, like those things just have to work together, and they were doing really good with the UI, the design portion, but the user experience portion just wasn't there. And it's like, I get it, you know, like we got it, but I could see, you know, some of their potential customers just being baffled by the way that their site is designed, not like really understanding how to navigate it properly because they don't.
Or tech jargon too, things like that.
Yeah.
You know, you spend time in an industry and you know all the jargon, and your competitors know all the jargon, and you know, when it comes down to it, you have these big headers on your site that no one's searching for those terms anyways.
Yeah.
You know, you have to have the empathy to think about what the user's looking for.
And it can be like a psychological thing where you're just like, you want to sound smart, you want to like
Oh,
almost
yeah.
show off that
Yeah.
like, oh, I know all this, I'm super into this, I know everything, and then the people you're trying to target, you're like, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Right.
And so even
Then-
for, oh, sorry.
Oh, then again, like you know, some of our friends have an agency. They do you know, web design, but that's primarily like who they're aiming for is other people in the industry. They're aiming for marketing departments and stuff like that. Like that's their customer.
It's important to know who you're targeting.
Exactly. Yeah. So whereas we're targeting, you know, small businesses, they're targeting enterprises, which is fine. You know, that's great. It's just like, you know, as long as you know where you're going and you know what kind of customers you're trying to attract.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned earlier, you asked about us having like a specific, you know, type of client we target. I think the people who we're targeting now, it seems like there's a really underserved group of people who aren't like super tech savvy. They're small businesses. People will call them mom and pop shops. You know, I think a lot of agencies look at them and say like they have no money or they just don't get it. You know, like we're just going for these big companies. And that's true to an extent, but I think we do a really good job of bridging the value for people who haven't done this kind of stuff for their business before. They haven't invested in marketing and digital marketing, but they obviously need to. I mean, it's where
We like
everything's
the
going.
schmedium clients.
Schmedium clients.
Schmedium.
Yep.
I like
That's what we
that.
say in the
Yeah.
office.
Medium's the word of the day.
Right. Where like, you know, they've got, you know, maybe they do a lot of business every year. Maybe it's, you know, $10 million or something like that, right? Or maybe like somewhere in there, where they're kind of in that schmedium area.
Yeah.
You know, they don't have a CEO, CIO, COO, but at the same time, they're kind of like maybe like mom and pop or started off that way, and they're kind of like in this weird area where they just need some help, you know, and that's what we're trying to do. That we're trying to offer that CIO as a service, or you know, chief marketing officer as a service, and then you know, whatever they need, just kind of really helping them with that.
So you're making it accessible for that.
Yeah, that
To a
market
target
segment.
market that may think that's out of reach.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Gotcha.
Well, and that's
They
the
don't have
best
to
part
pay
about
somebody
those.
$100,000 a year. They can, you know, pay us, you know, per hour or per contract or whatever.
I think it's so important to be able to scale down to those needs and being like, well, we can't give you all the bells and whistles, but we can give you something that fits your budget.
Right.
Well, sometimes that's a strength. Like I like to, when I get those clients, I like to say there's a lot of bells and whistles that like you can get with this, and that people are going to pitch to you as things that you need. Like this is what's going to work, and you kind of distill it down to the core things that you need. You know, like visibility, content, things like that. And those clients are perfect to target because no one's gotten through to them a lot of the time. You know, building that value. It's sometimes they think of like a website as just like, oh, it's kind of a luxury, like, you know, or we had like, you know, our nephew do it and like something like that. Or like a simple brochure site where maybe they were looking for a cheap website, but what they got was a really expensive brochure at the end of the day. And when we can build value on building them an online business, because a lot of times brick and mortar, they've been very successful, and that's why they haven't given anyone else the chance, you know, that calls them to do a website. They're like, hey, we're doing fine. You know, we obviously, you know, thrived without that. And we can build the value of saying like, hey, you know, but where's the potential? Like what could that be? You know? And if you can make people understand that no one else has gotten through to, it's like, that's a very easy, you know, client to have.
How do you get through that initial barrier? So if you contact someone and they're like, hey, we see a lot of potential for you, and they're like, we got a brick and mortar, we've been fine. Like, how do you address that objection?
There's a few different ways. I mean, like, obviously with any kind of sales, they're just people who are going to say no.
Mm-hmm.
And it might even be a perfect fit, and they might say yes to someone else, but you caught them on a bad day.
Yeah.
And you just can't, you can't worry about that.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, if you care about their needs and everything, and you have a pretty good plan, you can usually get through to people. And that's really it. Just knowing you're not going to get all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Another tactic I think that's really good is, since we do so many things, they probably have like 4 or 5 tech things that they haven't thought about calling anyone, but maybe they have their meetings and they're like, oh, our inventory management system is, so messed up, or, we don't even have a way to keep track of our customers and things like that. But when you call them, they're not even thinking about that. They're just maybe thinking of getting off the phone, as fast as they can. But if you say something like, hey, I know you probably have some tech things that are on the back burner. What's like the biggest thing that we could do for you to give some impact? And maybe it's only a few hours of labor on our end, and it's not a whole lot of money that we make on it, but then we've opened up, everything else.
Yeah, so you have like a small thing that gets you in the door.
Yeah, or maybe if they don't trust you yet, you even say like, what's a small thing that we could do just to show you what we're about and stuff.
How do
either
you
way.
walk people through that value and get them to understand oh, this website isn't just to look pretty, it actually has got an ROI on it? How do you convey that to people?
We have a lot of happy clients, so we have testimonials on our website, and we have 5-star ratings on Google, things like that. And if we're doing these services and people are happy, there's something to that. But
we
also
encourage people to reach out to our current and past customers as well and say, hey,
that's true.
A lot of people are like, oh, well, can I have some referrals, testimonials, whatever, and is it all right if we reach out to them? I'm like, yeah, every single one of our customers would be happy to talk to you and tell us what we've done for them and how well we've done it. And that's just something that we've made sure of. And so it's pretty easy to show value when you've got a relationship like that with your existing clients.
Right. And did you feel like when you first started, did you feel like you had to fake it till you make it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
So originally when I first started the company, we were buying old business machines and upgrading them, building them, stuff like that. And then just selling them to consumers for $100 a pop. It was just posting ads on Craigslist. It was just we got $100 computers over here.
Yeah.
Just running it out of my house or whatever.
Right.
And eventually, we had businesses coming in that they're just startup businesses, and they're like, hey, we need these. I'm starting this business. I'm going to buy 10 computers from you. Would you be interested in hooking these up to printers, stuff like that? And I had experience in IT departments and, stuff like that before. So I was like, yeah, no problem. It was 2000. It was 2010. 2009 was kind of when I started doing stuff like that, and then I actually started Grand Rapids Tech Computers, it was called at the time, in 2010. But yeah, so had that happening more and more and more, and then was still doing some residential stuff, and now we touch a little bit of residential stuff, but it's honestly it's hey, I've got a 10,000 square foot house, and I want we're completely remodeling it, and I want cameras and 10 access points, and it's well, this is bigger than some small offices that we work with, so yeah, I guess we'll be your IT department for your massive house or whatever.
I didn't know homeowners had IT departments.
Yeah.
Some of them,
basically.
I guess.
I spent about 4 or 5 years working at this call center, and I don't know, that was a couple of years ago that I left, but even at that point, they still had CRTs.
Oh yeah.
It was like all this hacked up, misplaced technology throughout a decade period of just like the 90s and early 2000s tech.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do, and it's always interesting, it was, transitioning from that into, the commercial stuff, and then, now doing the digital marketing stuff, and with that, it's just like I built my, first website with some help of friends that's what they did, and got a good understanding of HTML and CSS, and then rebuilt another site after that with some PHP mixed in, and then like a whole bunch of other things after that, and then just kind of, it wasn't faking it anymore.
Right.
We're a good company now.
Yeah.
We're doing making things happen. So
You gotta believe it till you make it.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And it started off really slow at first, and then it just kind of somebody once told me, you've got to just do good work for good people, and that makes a big difference.
Right.
And then just really getting things figured out as far as your marketing campaigns, and making sure that people know about what you're doing and how you're doing it, and
take risks too. When someone asks, like,
calculated
could you do
risks.
this? Yeah, be responsible. But if after a few years of being a professional in tech, like, okay, I don't know exactly how to do that, but like I can figure it out in the next day.
Yeah.
And people also respect when they ask if you can do something. If you don't have an answer, just say, hey, I could find you an answer, and then they trust you too. So that's a great thing. If you're going to get into something you haven't done before, be responsible, let them know that. But we rarely ever run into anything that we, can't get done in a timely fashion for people.
I know a company where basically their whole thing is every job they do it's an innovation essentially. So people come with these problems, and their whole business is figuring it out.
Right.
So figuring it, that for me is like kind of scary in terms of accepting a project scope and you don't really know what.
Right. Well, we're used to that.
It's very exciting.
Like on the IT side.
Yeah.
That's, with our managed services products and stuff like that, we try to limit that as much as possible. But sometimes a server goes down, and it's like, what the hell happened? Then we have to kind of like reverse engineer, figure it out, and then like get things back up and running. But we're kind of used to that.
How do you manage project scope and making sure you don't get scope creep?
Setting expectations first of all. Technology it's vast. Like there's so many options that you can have. I think a good thing to keep in mind if you're a professional in tech is that your clients are way more lost than you sometimes. If you feel like you're lost and you don't know what to use or what to do for a client, it's like, well, that's why they called you, is because it's hard. And all your competitors would probably be in the same position too. We know a lot of things, but at the end of the day, sometimes we have to research, sometimes we have to really push it and come up with ideas that are creative and that work.
Do you charge hourly for it, or do you just kind of estimate? We'll
Kinda
probably
depends.
spend about this much time figuring it out and hope.
We make estimates based on educated assessments, but at the end of the day, you're making estimates, and we charge by the hour, and it's quality work though. And but that comes with the expectations. You give them the expectation, and they can make a decision on whether they want to pursue that. You can find out how much of a priority that project is too. Maybe there's something that is better served for you to work on.
Yeah, like if they have a list of like 10 desires, and you can easily check off 9 out of 10, but that 1 out of 10 is gonna, there's some mystery there. We can say, hey, like we're going to tackle 9 out of 10 of these, and it's going to be, you know, at this estimated amount. This little bit here, I don't know. You know, we're going to have to kind of figure that out when we get there. And a lot of times people understand. Sometimes there's a little back and forth about what exactly that means.
Yeah.
But
And while clients might be lost on the technology side, they're smart about their business a lot of times. And so if you can, I think you should always keep in mind, and it's hard as a tech professional sometimes, you're excited about like the actual technology, or like I might be excited about a certain programming language or like a platform or something. But at the end of the day, I have to think about what that client's getting. And so I've got to distill it into that. And if I'm speaking in plain terms with a client, like, well, this is going to get you this, this, and this, and it'll cost this, they know much more than I do about their business, and they can make that, you know, that assumption. But if I'm a tech professional that is just so into the tech and I don't even want to talk about, you know, what they get out of it, I might just throw a number out and, you know, it goes nowhere, or I might give an estimate. It takes so much more time on our end, or something like that, and then we lose a little bit. You know, so if you have the empathy to know what the customer needs, then, you know, you can make better estimates. You can help the customer prioritize, you know, what they need. And that'll lead to more business. Maybe I can't do this for you, but, you know, because they trust me, they'll do something else with me.
So the biggest thing is communication.
it's huge.
Just being
it's always huge. Yeah.
Just leveling with them, being like, hey.
I don't think that's specific to Tucker marketing or anything.
I mean, that's,
you know,
that's,
think
just
that's
general
good
marketing principle business.
Yeah.
On the tech side, though, and I think part of the issue is that, you know, what I hear from clients a lot is we had a guy that was doing that, and then like sometimes they say like, yeah, he just kind of disappeared or something. And with websites, I think
we had somebody like that, you know, that called in this morning. They wanted a couple websites built or upgraded, you know. Probably going to end up just rebuilding them, be easier and better for everyone involved. But it was the same thing.
Some guy disappeared, and
that's a risk you take with contractors and outsourcing.
Right.
Yeah.
If they decide to, you're screwed.
I think a lot of people in tech, and it makes it harder for us because I think a lot of people in tech, I'm pretty introverted a lot of the time too, especially when I'm like really coding something out, doing some development, aren't the best at communicating. And so like, you might like not hear from a guy for 2 weeks and stuff. So we have to be conscious of that and stuff too. Yeah. But it's really good for us when, you know, we hear that because we can differentiate ourselves. And there's a lot of hobbyists too. I think in the space of websites, you know, people who...
A lot of people that can use WordPress.
Yeah, I think
or
that...
Or whatever, Wix or something, you know.
I think that to a lot of like people starting out in that industry, it seems like there's no barrier to entry, and there really isn't. You know, like as far as getting something like Wix or something like WordPress themes, and you download a theme and pretty much all of it's done for you, and you're like, okay, I could start doing this for clients, and then you start doing that, and then you're like, oh man, you know, I bit off more than I could chew.
When they ask for like a tiny little change or something, it's just like, the theme doesn't let me do that. So I don't know how to do it now. I don't know how to be a web developer anymore.
Because I designed my own website, so I can kind of relate to that, where it's like, I built something, I was like, oh, okay, that looks pretty good. I don't know how to make this change or do that and whatnot. And if I were to bring that to a client, and they're like, oh, can we make this a different color? It's not in the theme, so no.
So that's kind of like... you know, when we build stuff from scratch, we can, you know, a change like that.
More control.
It's just
once you know you're an expert in it, and it's just like, oh, you need that change? I know how to do that.
Right.
And people pay so they can save time, because you could build a website, but you're going to either make it bad or you're going to take too long to make it, and that's why it starts to make sense to. Well,
that's what Chris was saying earlier with the you know, if it's just like a WordPress built site, you know, like you can do it yourself, or, you know, sometimes it just ends up being an expensive brochure. You know, it's not really providing any value for your business because, you know, you have this company that maybe charged you $3,000 to, you know, pick a theme for you and input your information.
Mm-hmm.
Which, sometimes that just makes sense, but other times it's really not providing that value. Maybe it loads really slow, and most of the time customers not actually even going to see it because they're going to click back when they go to your competitor's website that loads instantaneously, or different things like that. And I think that it's just kind of it's good to have the value. We're all about providing value. And I say that all the time, but it's just a fact, that's our goal. Just value. There's no other way to describe what we do. But yeah.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to end it. We're about out of time, so I'm going to ask one more question. If you could go back and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, maybe don't be afraid to bring on more people. It was really hard for me to start hiring people, and I just wanted to do everything myself. I didn't trust anybody. I was scared that I wasn't going to be able to pay myself, pay them. But I realized that the more people that I bring on, that we bring on now, the harder we all work to make sure that we have enough work for everybody. So it just kind of works itself out. And I think that would have been something that would have been great for me to know a long time ago. It took me a long time to do that,
How long
And
did it
was
take
just
you to get to the point where you hired?
6 years probably.
Okay. So you've only been hiring for the last 4 years then, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think Dave's been, well, I guess I hired some people before Dave too. So 5 or 6 years. It took me about 5 or 6 years.
Okay.
So I worked a lot of hours there.
Yeah.
For a while, just trying to do everything myself.
That's kind of where I'm at.
80 hours wasn't uncommon.
Yeah. It's good to set boundaries for yourself so you can control your schedule too and balance life.
Yeah. The other thing is the sooner that you start hiring people, there's going to be a learning process. There is an onboarding process with any business that you ever work for.
I'm trying to document my process so that when I do end up hiring, I can onboard easier.
That's smart. I kind of did that.
Yeah. All right. Well, where can people find you if they're interested in learning more about what you have to offer?
Well, we've got this handy URL. Our website is grandrapids.tech.
Yeah, I think that's very interesting. It's different, and you've got to condense. That's a cool URL. Well, thank you guys for coming on the show.
Yeah.
Appreciate
Thanks for having
everything.
us. Thank you.
This has been the Digital Fluid Marketing Podcast. I think I look at that one.